song of Pueblo, the people's town.
Why don't we get people to share their memories, and it's their project. And so basically we turned all the neighborhood residents into consultants, and then the consultants actually just stitched it together and put a nice bow on it, and then made it into a scholarly piece of research that you could use to honor your parents, for grandkids to learn, and then for the whole community. Sorry guys who live there, everybody's really interested in your neighborhoods. So you're gonna have to deal with it. And people have been incredible in the sharing. I've never seen neighborhoods share this much. So we studied just short of 30 houses intensively, and we took memoirs for the whole neighborhood as a whole, because it turns out that even the name was very interesting, and Pam went through the most democratic process I've ever seen a neighborhood go through, and there was, I think, 3 rounds of elections to come up with the Eilers Heights neighborhood, and then even then they added in Old Bojon Town. So Bojon Town is in the study all over the place, but you know, I come from Chicago, so I'm not from here, and I'm a Polak from Chicago, you know, where sausage is like 3 out of the 4 food groups, and so I felt like when I moved to Pueblo that, you know, there wasn't a Polish neighborhood. There's not a very big Polish neighborhood here. So when I met Pam and Joe and I worked in Bojon Town and they told me about this thing where they race sausage, I was like, that is great. I can race sausage, and there's something called a Bojon Triathlon that's 4 events. I was like, that's something that I can get behind. And so Joe and I and Pam, she'll tell you a little bit more about how we met, but we started working and trying just this amazing neighborhood. And I said, you know, do you guys know how special you are? It looks like you could film an episode of Mad Men or any show from the 40s or 50s in their neighborhood. So perfectly manicured. And then as a city planner, I had ulterior motives. I really am not a preservationist, so don't tell the History Colorado people. Like, I just want to see healthy neighborhoods, and this is the healthiest neighborhood I've ever seen. And so I thought maybe if we shared this history as people passed on or their houses were sold, that maybe this study could actually be sold, you know, shared with new people and actually protect property values. And this is all before the EPA or some of the CDOT things we did. And then I went to Buffalo, and I came back from Buffalo, which is part of it are kind of like a zombie town. And I said, you know, we don't want that to happen in Pueblo. So what can we do? And we kind of amplified our efforts to study this neighborhood and preserve it and share the history, that in the hope that maybe you can make such a special place that people will then want to move here and then start buying houses and moving them. So really the first initiative was that there were some houses deteriorating around the edge of the core of this neighborhood, and we wanted to see what we could do. So that was the first impetus for doing this study. And then met Pam and Joe, and I had to work my butt off to stay ahead of them. I've never met, like Sandy said, I've never met neighborhood activists that are this engaged. And, you know, no offense to all of our veterans, you know, they've done so much, but Pam and Joe are the type of people who built neighborhoods worth fighting for. You know, all the people who went over in World War II fought for places like Bojon Town. And I think what makes it so special is that this place is still alive and active, and the people still live there, and they built their own houses. If they haven't, then their kids have, or their relatives have. So, you know, I really think there should be a section, like a Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor for neighborhood activists. And, you know, Pam and Joe should win the first one, and everybody else should get a little bit smaller one, and it should be someplace in Washington, D.C. on the mall, the neighborhood activist area. So it's just really been an honor to work with these guys. So in honor of my wife, I'll shut up, and I will turn it over to you guys. She was right.
Everybody, thank you so much for coming and being here tonight to hear, to see, to experience Eilers. I was born and raised in the house on 1142 Eilers, right across the street from St. Mary's Catholic Church, as my mom always said. My interest in the neighborhood is because not only was I raised there, but all 4 of my grandparents were also from the neighborhood. Grandma Glavich and Grandpa Matt lived, first of all, in the 300 block of Northern, where Mom was born, and then in 1929 they moved to the 300 block of East Mesa and bought Lommel Grocery, and that's where Mom and everyone else was raised, including my own family. And then my grandparents on my dad's side lived 2 blocks away in the 1200 or 1100 block of Bowman Avenue. So my heart is truly in the Eilers neighborhood. The stories that came out were just phenomenal. I myself have some explicit memories that made Eilers so special. But the stories that came out from all you people just made mine pale in comparison, because it was just so much fun listening, experiencing what you all had to share. And that made it something that I'll hold and cherish for the rest of my life. And with that, I think Pam's going to talk about the process of how we all got to this point.
Okay. Well, again, I'm honored that you all are here this evening. I think it is worth mentioning how this whole thing got started. If you've seen those commercials on the TV about this company started in a garage, that company started in a garage, this started because of a garage. Joe's mom passed away in December of 2006, and we had just sold Eilers Bar to the fourth generation, Sue and Ray Dog, and we were looking for a place to live, and we looked all over the city and couldn't figure out anywhere except Bojon Town. So we came and asked the family, and we bought the home where Joe was born and raised, and we remodeled it a little bit, added on to the back, and there was no garage, and we needed a garage, and so we had to go to zoning to get a variance. And Wade was the person that we met there in the planning department, and with lots of arm wrestling and this and that and so on and so forth. I'm only kidding, but we got the permit to build the garage in the backyard. Well, about a year later, Wade comes calling, and because he is, as he mentioned, from Chicago, he had not been really in our neighborhood at all, and he decided one day to drive by. And he realized that this particular area that was studied in the survey is really unique because there are so many original owners or second-generation families on these blocks still. For instance, to give you an idea, on our block there are 11 homes. 7 of those are either original owners or second-generation families. So it's pretty, from what Wade told us nationally, it's pretty amazing that that is the case. And he suggested that we might consider becoming a historic district. Well, we didn't know anything about this, and so we decided to start contacting neighbors and getting together and visiting a little bit, and Wade brought in some people to talk to everybody, and we started gathering information about the process. And then during this time, he expanded the study to include not only just the 1100 block of Eilers, but the 300 block of East Mesa, half of the 200 block of East Mesa, and St. Mary's Church. And so we started organizing, and that's how this whole thing got started. We had been organizing because of what was happening with I-25. And then when the EPA came in, and this all happened at about the same time, we really started to organize, and we realized that we needed an organization to help deal with all the situations that were arising in our neighborhood. So anyway, that's how this all formed. And what we learned in the process of these meetings was that the first step to deciding if any of us wanted historical designation was to do a historic survey. The survey would tell us then if we actually qualify to become a historic district, or if any of the homes are considered to be historic. And so that's how this whole thing got started. And then what happened was Wade, then when we all decided yes, he went to History Colorado, and we wrote grants and we wrote letters and we did a lot of things to try to get the grant. And History Colorado gave us $30,000 to do the study. So then Historitecture was hired. Historitecture is the company that does these historic surveys. And that's when I met Mary Therese Anstey right here. And Joe and I then started talking to them with Wade. And we knew that it was going to be a long time before the grant was actually approved. And we were a little concerned because we had decided, and I think Sandy Daff was part of this process too, to include the entire neighborhood and do these oral histories that we've been telling you about that Dawn DePrince helped us with, and she's going to go into detail about that. But anyway, so in talking to Mary Therese, we said we're concerned that a number of these original residents may not be here, right? Because most of them were in their 90s. And I'll tell you what has happened. This study is really about love and dedication.
Here she goes. I knew she could make it.
Love and dedication, because I'll get through it. Mary Therese started working on this and Wade and Adam and not having any money. They were not getting paid for this. The grant had not been approved. And here they were coming down from Denver. We set up meetings. We went to a lot of people's homes and took oral histories, and Mary Teresa and I had the greatest time, didn't we? It was quite a special experience. But so this really is about love and dedication, because you really haven't met many people in the types of fields that they are, Wade and Mary Teresa and Adam and Sherry and Sandy, that are so dedicated to what they do. It's really unique, and without anything but, yes, they want to do this. They fell in love with our neighborhood. They fell in love with the people. They fell in love with the stories. And I think it's just rare. And so anyway, that's how this whole thing got started. And so you have to know, as we've mentioned, there are two parts to this survey. When you get a chance, the booklets and the pictures over here to my left are the original architectural significant studies on these particular homes. And I know some of you here have your homes on here. What we need to do now on those particular blocks is we now need to get together. We do qualify for some historical significance. So we now have to decide individually what we want to do from here with the study. And so that'll be our next step. But what we do have for everybody is the historic survey. And Historitecture has never done anything like this. The first time this has ever been done, where they have included histories, stories from everybody that used to live and still does live in the neighborhood. So this is quite unique. So I think we should give all of them a huge round of applause. Yeah. And the second thing, I think, who else deserves a round of applause is the residents. Past and current residents of the neighborhood, because I'll tell you, this couldn't have happened, and I hope Mary Teresa is going to talk about the participation of you all, but you guys deserve a round of applause, because they've never had this kind of participation, so thank you all. Okay, Wade, so what's next?
I have to tell you, I was really just looking to get a free t-shirt. That's all I was trying to do with any of this, and maybe a scooter, and so I just got dragged into a lot more than I expected. Thanks, Pam. So I'm going to introduce Mary Therese Anstey, PhD, used to work for History Colorado, now is an architectural historian, and Adam Thomas. Adam and Mary Therese are literally some of the best in the nation. I am lucky enough to go travel around the nation, and I say, show me your best work. And I was like, well, that's nothing like Historitecture. That's nothing like Pueblo's doing. I mean, these guys really are the best. And when we started working with 2007, 2004, whenever it was, we've basically just been hiring them to do this type of work because they really are the best. And this has really kind of been the bar, and this has been shared. I was on the phone with the keeper of the National Register earlier today. I'm working on a project with her, and I said, you have to get out to Pueblo and see the type of things that are going on here, and she's really excited about it. So this is going to make national news, just the way that they've done this historic survey. So I'm going to introduce Mary Therese and Adam, and we thought we would turn the tables. Everybody in the neighborhood has shared their memoirs that have gone into these site forms and the video and the Song of Pueblo, and so we asked Mary Therese and Adam to briefly give their memoirs of doing this project on the fly with no rehearsal to you guys, because I think they ran out of budget, I think, long ago, and Mary Therese would get phone calls and emails to me from like 3 o'clock on a Sunday as I was transcribing these tapes, and I would get emails from her in the middle of the night. So these guys are really, truly dedicated. So, Mary Therese.
Woo. Thank you so much for coming. I cannot really explain what a joy this project has been to work on. It's been personally so fulfilling, professionally so fulfilling, to see so much participation, so much love for your neighborhood, and wanting to share it with others. A lot of people love things, but they don't want anybody else to know, and you guys were willing to share. Some of those memoir workshops and the architectural memoir workshop that we did, I've been describing them to people like family reunions, and that's really what they felt like. And all of a sudden, somebody's telling a story, and then somebody else says, oh, I remember that, and they start talking about something, and then by about 5 minutes in, everyone's talking over everyone else and laughing, and it was just the best feeling to be around that kind of love of history, love of family. You're so tight-knit. I'm sure that there are times when you weren't, but I couldn't find them. I did a lot of research, and I really didn't find many. So, but I just so much enjoyed this project, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I don't think we could have had a better person working on this project than Mary Therese. And there's no one in the state better at doing this than what she did. As far as my own memories, the first thing I have to do is recognize Sherry Yost, who's standing in the back of the room. You may not see her, she's a little short. I happen to be married to her, and she's also the project manager. And she and I had many, many, many conversations about this project, and a lot of saying, you know what, this budget's just not happening, but we're just going to keep going through it. And it was funny because we got to the end of the documentary, and she said, "How many minutes is it?" "You know, it's supposed to be 5. And I said, "Well, it's 14. Like, that's par for the course. But the thing I was worried about the most was the standards. I have absolutely ridiculously high standards when it comes to history. Any of you have seen some of the stuff we do. I pour so much work into it to make sure there's absolute perfection. I'm absolutely annoying. My students hate me because I demand such perfection. And so what kept me up at night was, these neighborhood people are going to be coming up with these forms and giving me narratives. We're not doing any research. There's no control. This is going to be a nightmare." And it kept me up for night after night after night because my reputation's on the line. And the first couple forms started coming in and the first bits of the context coming in, and my first thought was, no way. No way. I have never seen information like this. Some of the best survey forms we have ever done. And they came from you guys. That's impressive. A second thing I want to say is I have the pleasure or displeasure of having grown up in a Rust Belt city in the East. I live in one right now. And I got to say, a lot of people call Pueblo Rust Belt. There is nothing like this in those cities. There aren't people who would fill a room like this. There aren't Pam and Joes. They have given up. And what amazes me about a place like Eilers and what amazes me about Pueblo is the fact that you people still care. You still fight. Don't lose that. That is an amazing feature of this city, and it's going to keep you going in through the 21st century. And then I don't think I should delay any longer for the documentary. So we're going to have to do a technical change. Does someone want to do some entertaining while I switch computers?
I think we are going to delay.
There is going to be a delay, so.
So yeah. Okay. So before we start the movie, Joe and I and the Eiler Heights Neighborhood Association, we had to figure out a way to thank them, everyone. So.
Sorry.
So we've got. Okay, here's for you. We'll open them all together. This is for Sandy.
Thank you.
Okay, Wade.
Heavy.
Better be a t-shirt, right?
Adam and Sherry both, yeah. Okay, so go ahead and open them, and I'll take one and just read what's on the top. So, Sandy, I'll read yours, but they're all exactly the same. It says, on June 26, 2014, honorary Eiler Heights resident, Sandy Daff, and they all have their names on them, is presented with the keys to Bojon Town. So, what this is, we'll go over it with you guys so you know what you're seeing here. I think they all know because they did all of these, historic surveys, memoirs. But so there's the logo. Here, oh, good, hun. Okay, there's the logo, the Eiler Heights Neighborhood Association, and that's the picture from the Gregoriches of one of the original lamps in the neighborhood. And then it's all lined with ribbon with the Slovenian flag in the front. And then the copy of the front of the survey itself. And then because it's called Petitza, Pints, and Prayers in Bojon Town, so here's the picture of the Petitza, the pint of beer, and the cross for prayers in Bojon Town. And then they heard a lot of stories about some of the games played in the neighborhood. So Joe put together this is the broom handle from Corks, right? That's why there were so many great baseball players from this neighborhood, is because of this game. So this is a broom handle, And off of it are the old skate keys.
The keys to Bojon.
The keys to Bojon Town. And then, so here are some corks. And then over in this corner, there's a can, an actual can, because they used to play washers. So here are some washers, and there's the can that they used to bury in the ground. And so this is from the Isler Heights Neighborhood Association. And Joe and I and the association, from the bottom of our hearts, thank every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. The bathroom key is precious. My poor wife, there goes our wedding photos. This is going right up in the middle of everything. So if Adam's got the video queued up, we will do that, and then I will introduce Dawn and the Song of Pueblo players. So take it away, Adam.
Funding for this program is made possible through a National Park Service certified local government grant to the City of Pueblo, and the grant is administered through History Colorado.
But we have a lot of challenges. The EPA wants to come in here and make us a Superfund site because of the Isler smelter. The bricks that were used to build a school, right, came from the smelter. And so they want to make us a Superfund site, which is sort of where this play on words comes from, Superfund neighborhood. And I-25, the big highway right here, has also been a challenge. They want to come this direction and take out 52 of our homes to enlarge the highway. So we have a lot of these humongous government agencies that we've been dealing with to try to preserve our neighborhoods. So it's really been a challenge.
I don't know, I just love this area here. It's quiet, she goes for walks, and we know everybody from here clear over to there.
It's kind of a close-knit community. I think if I go someplace else, I would feel lost.
Pueblo's Bojon neighborhood was born in a catastrophe. The Great 1921 flood devastated low-lying areas of the city, including the Grove neighborhood, home to many poor immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe.
My sister Kay and Rose were still at home. They hadn't been married, and I was little. They took me down to the end of the hill there, and we saw that water. I remember that. Then I remember my dad went to help clean out the church after the flood. Oh, God.
Following the flood, Pueblo Slovenians decided to move southward from the Grove to the site of the long-shuttered Colorado or Isler smelter. Their neighborhood became known as Bojon Town, Bojon being a slang term for Slovenian dandy.
My mom and her family, they lived in Leadville. They moved down here in 1920-21, just in time to get flooded out. So they were no way going to stay down the Grove. That's why we came up on this hill.
The heritage from this neighborhood was about 75% of the neighborhood up through the 60s was Slovenian immigrant families. And now it's a very mixed older neighborhood, and we're just in the process of trying to keep our neighborhood up.
Bojon Town was not only higher, but also much closer to the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company's gigantic Miniqua Steelworks. CF&I was the lifeblood of Bojon Town, shaping every aspect of life in the neighborhood.
Everybody basically worked out with CF&I, especially in this area. You know, they were close enough to walk.
Dad decided he wasn't going to be a musician. He said, that's no life for a married man with children. and he saw an ad in the paper for Bessemer was, Miss Bessemer was hiring people for the mill, so that's how they came here.
When I first went work out the mill, I worked for 80 cents an hour. I'm making $6.40 for 8 hours work. And I thought I was a millionaire.
And the blast furnace put out that red dirt. And I remember my mother running out to get the clothes when she heard the blast go off. And half the time she had to do them over.
While CF&I may have been Bojon Town's economic center, its spiritual and cultural heart was St. Mary Help of Christians Church.
We went to school, we made our confirmation, communion, and got married at St. Mary's Church. All of us, every one of us.
At Christmas time, you used to see 3 generations there. It was lovely to see. Grandma, the great-grandma would be there, and and the kids. We take chicken to church.
Didn't think.
Whatever we have for Easter, we cook food, put it in a basket, and at 12 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, the bishop usually comes and blesses the food. And that's been a tradition at St. Mary's.
Yet no church event was as widely celebrated and remembered in the neighborhood as the traditional Slovenian wedding.
The man that played the accordion, he went and picked up the groom and played the accordion and took him to church. Well, that's the way they did it. You got married at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you went down to the hall and had breakfast. Then you stood around there, and then pretty soon you were eating lunch. Then you was eating supper, dinner, whatever you want to call it.
I had my dress on, my wedding dress, beautiful wedding dress, and I had on 8 o'clock mass. We got married till the reception was over at 1.
Midnight. No, that's until 1.
In addition to caring for souls, St. Mary's also cared for minds, operating an elementary school beside the church from 1923 until 1971. It was the proverbial melting pot, helping the children of Slovenian immigrants learn English as well as American culture.
All of us, the kids will all get together, we all went to school. Everybody around here basically went to St. Mary's School. Our tuition was like $1 a month. And then when we were in the 4th grade, they doubled it to 2.
We had sisters, and I remember they were wonderful. One was kind of mean, but the rest of them were good.
I remember over there, we never had lights in the school. Couldn't for $1. And they had those big windows, and they had quite a bit of light in. And if there was a real bad thunderstorm or something, we got to turn the lights on.
For children, Bojon Town was a veritable wonderland, filled with homemade games.
But what I remember as growing up as a boy, just kind of playing those kind of games. Like we had to make our own. Neighborhood kids would get together. We created a game we called Corks.
And so from the bar, we got the corks, and then we took broomstick handles and used the corks as balls and the broomstick handles as the bats.
And residents young and old were particularly fond of the national pastime.
But baseball was very important in the neighborhood. And in 1933, there was a semi-pro team that was put together. My dad was the manager, and he got the guys from the neighborhood. They were all the ball players were from the neighborhood because everybody played ball anyway. And there was a local brewery in town called Walter's Brewery. And my dad put the team together with all the local guys, and they ended up building a baseball field across the street from the bar.
There was a fence all around this place where there was a grandstand on that end of the field. They used to have tournaments over there every weekend. Zulu Giants. They played in grass skirts and barefooted, and they had a bone sticking out like under their nose, and they used to walk all the way through the neighborhood. And when we'd see them, we would scatter because we were scared to death of them.
Eiler's Place Bar is a beloved Bojon Town institution, holding Pueblo's second oldest liquor license.
My dad was a barber, and he says, I'm going to take a walk around the block. So he took a walk around the block, and he noticed the grocery store. Eiler's Bar was a grocery store. He went to people in the grocery store. He said, I want to buy this house. And he bought the house. 1 year later, he died. So my mother was lost.
They had 6 children. Right after that, he passed away. She was by herself. So what happened was the gentleman right down the street here on the corner, he came down to the grocery store with 2 big barrels and a door and put them on top and said, took her down to City Hall and got her liquor license to open a bar. And it's still Eiler's Bar today. It's going to be 80 years old. We were the 3rd generation to run it. Now Sue and her brother, who were raised right next door, are the 4th generation. What I recognized in the bar and in this neighborhood in general is this really is, it pulls people back. It makes people think because the memories were so great from people growing up here. They still want to talk about them. They still want to share them.
No celebration was complete in Bojon Town without traditional Slovenian music, most often played on the accordion or button box.
Well, I can remember when I was really young, there was somebody playing a button box accordion on that side of town. One guy would play it for a couple hours, he'd put it down, somebody else would pick. There was about 6 or 7 guys playing accordions down there.
Had to play the accordion. Oh, I hated that. I just hated it because every time we went anywhere, you know, my cousin and I, we had to bring our accordions. Always wait there until we got to play it, and then we both play as fast as we could.
But it was the food that tied generations together.
Kibasi is a local sausage. They also make liver and blood sausage. Still made here in this neighborhood today. We're also going to have sour potatoes, which is another Slovenian dish, and you're also going to have apple strudel.
Kibasi, jutene sausage, the rice ones, the blood sausage.
Kidneys and gravy and sauerkraut and zgotse.
I made sauerkraut from the time I was 8 years old till I was 70.
And patisa and strudel and krofa and what else?
Klobasa, kampir, bazile.
Well, they made patitsa, like everybody.
And patitsa is a rolled dough with walnut spread on a table.
Their dough is so perfect. It is about this thin, and every layer is perfect.
Pueblo's Bojon Town is at heart a place of stories and memories, but it is also a real place where families work hard to achieve the American dream, to live strong, faithful lives, and together make this corner of Pueblo a better place to live.
Thank you, Adam. That was really incredible. And Mary Therese and everybody. So how many of you guys saw yourself in the videos or the pictures? I think the front rowers here. Look at you guys. 2 hours early for mass, 2 hours early for a presentation. That was great. So trying to move you guys along because it's so full and probably getting hot in here. So we didn't forget about you, Dawn DePrince. So this project absolutely would not have been possible. That's wrapping up. It's gonna get you guys to hear me. Okay. There's just too many. Yeah, we have to. Yeah. So the other person we haven't thanked yet is Dawn DePrince. And so we don't have a garage story, right, Dawn? And we can't even really figure out where we had this conversation. But when we did the mid-century modern study, my coworker Barrett Odom's mother said, I grew up in Belmont, and she started sharing these albums, and it was just a stupid mistake of like, why haven't we asked people to share things about the mid-century period? And I talked to Dawn, and she said, well, we do these memoir studies, and we ask people to draw a picture of their house and start describing things, and they just write and they write and they write. And I said, you cannot get 80-year-old steel mill workers to start writing about their feelings and emotions. She's like, just try me, I'll do it. And we did the first one, and Dawn, in addition to everybody else, volunteered her time before we even had the grant, and it was a cold morning, and we got everybody to come in there, draw site plans of their house, and just people started sharing. We couldn't even handle the amount of information. And so Dawn is smart enough to already be using this model for some other projects, but if it wasn't for Dawn, and she'll talk about some connections she has, coming up with this memoir idea and getting engaging people and writing about their history, this never would have happened and never would have been as good as it is. So thank you, Dawn DePrince. Here you go.
So I just want to say, for me, this project started a very long time ago, before I even met you, Wade. In the 90s, I was after my grandmother, who grew up in the neighborhood, to write about her life story. My grandmother was Dorothy Savage Tranny, and I keep this. In the 90s, she hand wrote. Oh, I'm dropping photos. She hand wrote for me 4 pages of very beautiful information. And when Wade told me that the city was considering doing a historic context study for the Eilers neighborhood, I said, oh, please, can we include people's memories as well? Because it felt like a really great way to honor my grandmother's memory, even though she had passed on by the time we had started the project. I think I just, for my own sake, wanted to hear all of your stories. And so I really thank you, all of you who participated, because it was very rich and personally pretty great for me. But I also want to tell you that aside from all those warm and fuzzy feelings, what we did was actually pretty radical. Historians don't like personal histories. Adam kind of hinted at that a little bit. It makes them uncomfortable. Well, how do we know people remembered things correctly? Or how do we know they're telling the truth? And so they really like those official documents, those kinds of things that you might find at Wade's office about the history of buildings. But you know what we don't know? There's so much information that's left out of those official documents. Then there's also lots of great history books. But history books are often written about people like Rockefeller. They're written about millionaires, bazillionaires, or generals of armies. But they're rarely written about working class men, and even more rarely are they written about working class women. And so one of the things that was so meaningful to me with this project is that we got to hear how women lived in this neighborhood, and they really were such, all of you who participated, you really gave us such a rich view of what it was like to be a woman in different eras in this neighborhood, in our community. And that's pretty radical. And so I really thank you. I want you all to know this is not usually how history is written. What we've done is something very unique in this neighborhood. I know that Wade and I have both heard from people across the country who have remarked at what a very unique way of recording history this is. And it really is because you joined us in that St. Mary's basement. You joined us later over at El Pueblo History Museum. And without hesitation, you drew pictures of your homes and you shared your pictures and you told your stories. I mean, there were times that everybody wanted to share. You know, I've been a writing teacher for many years, and I've sat in classes where nobody wants to share. So the fact that you wrote your stories and then were so eager to share them, I think is very, very special. So I now am I started working on this project before I worked for El Pueblo History Museum, but I now am the director of El Pueblo History Museum, which is a regional museum of History Colorado. And you've seen that History Colorado has been a participant of this project from the beginning. And so I also want to point out another project that we've done in commemorating and celebrating the Eilers neighborhood was we got a grant from Colorado Creative Industries to add a song to the Song of Pueblo. And this song was composed by Daniel Valdez, who's composed the rest of the Song of Pueblo. And he met with people in the neighborhood to garner their stories, but he also used the memoirs that we typed up that you all had written. You had written in pencil and pen, and we typed those memories up, and we gave them to the composer, and he used those in the composition of this song. And so my portion of the project was really to glean memories out of all of you. And I'm going to introduce now Deborah Espinoza, who spearheaded the song project. Here's Deborah.
Thank you, Dawn. If you haven't seen Song of Pueblo, it's a multimedia show with videos and original music composed by Daniel Valdez, as Dawn mentioned. He's renowned, and we're very fortunate to have his work here. So he's been to Pueblo numerous times, and of course he spent a lot of time in Bojon Town. And he met with wonderful people like Mike and Joni Geritano, and I remember Mike telling him, don't call the song Eilers Heights, whatever you do. It's Bojon Town. And so that is the name of the song that's being performed tonight. We have about 15 songs now. I remember serving on the Preservation Commission when I heard that CDOT was threatening this neighborhood. And by that time, Don and I were working together, and I said, well, we need to add one more song. Really, we have a great vision for this production. I hope you get a chance to see it soon. We'll let you know how we progress. Each song is connected with a narration. And Danielle spent a lot of time thinking about this song. And there were so many stories, as you heard in the movie, that what he put into the song is the pride and the preservation of the community, and you'll hear that in the lyrics. This song has the longest narration of all the other songs because there was just so much to share. So I will read. Oh, okay. All right. They're going to do the main song, Song of Pueblo first. Thank you for the reminder.
Tonight, Johnny and David. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Check 1, 2.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Johnny Watson. This is David Enke. We are 2 of the 4 members of the El Pueblo Ensemble, which have been doing this Song of Pueblo performance for almost 6 years now. Well, actually, I was a part of the original performance that was done at the Art Center, the Sangre de Cristo Art Center, and immediately I was compelled. I wasn't even singing in the project. I was strictly a musician, and there was a choir. But my point is, when I meet a lot of people lately, I always say that the show is heartwarming and heart-wrenching, because the history of this area, not just Pueblo, but the surrounding area, is amazing. And history is history. And so the show compelled me so much because of the ups and downs, the dynamics of what I was either singing or playing about. And so we're going to give you the title track, Song of Pueblo, right now. And then, of course, we're going to play the Bojon Town song for you. And Deborah will, of course, give you some narration, which would usually be within the show. But like I said, I'm glad the two of us could be here. We wish the whole group could be here. There's a different sense that comes across, but we are more than glad to be here, and thank you so much. This night we bring the song of Pueblo, the people's town. In this place that history shaped, we honor Pueblo, people's town. Oh, to those who came before from different lands and distant shores to live their lives and plant their dreams. They came to Pueblo, the people's town. Oh, so low. They found a way to persevere. So sing, we sing to all. We bring the song of Pueblo, the people's town. Song tell the story of our town for those who've lived and for those yet born. So sing, we sing this night. We bring the song of Pueblo, people's town, the song of Pueblo, the people's town. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
Besides the mill, Pueblo had 5 smelters. A Slovenian neighborhood sprang up around the old Eiler smelter, and eventually the lives of the Bojans, as the people were called, took on a rhythm around the 24-hour shifts industry demanded. The term Bojan has always been a bit of a mystery. It is said that when the Slovenians immigrated through France, the French referred to them as Bojans, the beautiful people. No other community uses the term in reference to Eastern Slovenians, and there is no other community quite like Bojon Town. Women still gather to make strudel and potica, and families enjoy telling stories of the brides processing to the church. St. Mary's School was built from the bricks of the old Eiler smelter. Children enjoyed an invented game of corks that honed their baseball skills. Baseball became the major pastime, and the Walters Brewers was their semi-professional team. Taverns were a friendly gathering place where people might order a zhunka, but Sundays were for family and homemade noodles. St. Mary's Church bells helped keep the time, and young people knew to be home when the mill's evening whistle blew.
There's a There's a neighborhood in Pueblo that I know, where Slovenians and their families make their home. They're a proud community with rich identity and believed in preserving their own. Their traditions and their culture still remain, for the customs and the music they retain. For the history is one that is passed down to the young in hopes that they'll never forget. So come on down to Bojon Town. We can meet at Isla's place. Come on down to Bojon Town. We can meet face to face. Still the bells at St. Mary's ring the call for Sundays and for family and for God. So when you're passing by, you'll hear the reason why they still call this place Bojon Town. So come on down to Bojon Town. We can meet at Isla's place. Come on down to Bojon Town, where we meet face to face. Na 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 na. meet at Isla's place. Come on down to Bojon Town, where we meet face to face. There's a lesson to be learned from this song, how a culture can survive and still be strong. Just remember who you are, and it will take you far, like the folks down in Old Bojon Town. So come on down to Bojon Town, we can meet at Isla's place. Come on down to Bojon Town, where we meet face to face. So come on down to Bojon Town, where we meet face to face. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Wow. How'd they do in that one? I saw it last night. I could see it 100 more times, and just great job, guys. That was really amazing. And there were so many things that was incredible. The last thing, Adam, one thing we haven't even talked about yet. This was a historic survey about buildings, right? We haven't even got to buildings. I mean, all of that you guys shared is all in these buildings. And these buildings, we found out, you guys are family, and the buildings are family. And you can't understand any of these buildings without understanding all of those stories. And so you guys are more than eligible for the National Register. They're going to have to come up with a new category for the National Register, like the Super Slovenian Bojon National Register. So that's settled. You guys are eligible, so it's up to you to do whatever you want. But really my goal as a city planner is really to hope you guys treat your properties like they're on the National Register of Historic Places, and that you guys maintain them and make them strong and have that build out. So thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, El Pueblo, Song of Pueblo players. Adam, one more thing.
I've been asked to mention something. Pam wanted to remind everyone that the context study, the history of Bojon Town, will be available for purchase, as well as DVDs of the documentary that you saw. So I think there's a sign up in the back and approximate prices back there. And the more people sign up, the better things will get. So if you want a piece of history, please sign up in the back.
So you said we were going to have a question and answer.
Oh, Well, I wanted to give the last word. Do you want anything else to say?
Nope.
This is all for you guys, so if you want to say
Hold
anything
on.
else.
Everybody mark this down in your calendar. She doesn't have anything to say.
Yeah, question in the back.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
Okay, so.
There's some other swag.
Yes, yes. The Isler Heights Neighborhood Association, Bojon Town, we do have, we have a website, we have an email address, islerheights at hotmail.com and islerheights.org. We're in the process of becoming a 501c3. We've developed a logo, as I mentioned earlier, and we have Isler's Proud window stickers in the back. We've got flags you can fly. We have them for sale in the back, along with tonight. You don't need any money because, as Adam mentioned, if you want to order the actual hard copy of the historic survey with all the stories in it, you can do that, or you can also order the DVD, or you can do it as a combo pack. And so you can just place your order tonight for that. And then the price will be determined on the number that we get. Anyway, so that's it. So I think Wade had said we should have a question and answer period. So.
I mean, normally we'd invite everybody down to the bar, but I think we're a little over the capacity for the bar, in the church, in the whole neighborhood. So thank you for the library for hosting this as well. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer, who is actually, her family's from the neighborhood as well. So anybody have, and there she is, she's in the back. Her husband has the, was it Polka Power? I think that's the next t-shirt that's got to go out. Does anybody else have, yeah, question?
You ought to get the Pueblo Lore that just came out this week.
The Pueblo Lore?
It has about the 45 years of our priest, Father Zupon, in there.
Father Zupon?
And it's a beautiful story on it.
Yeah, so the Pueblo Lore, the magazine the Pueblo County Historical Society puts out, is all about Father Zupon, which he really made. We couldn't be here unless he had been there. Any other questions? Oh, sorry.
There's also a section about him in the historic survey as well.
And that was the other thing. The subdivision is named Zupon after the person who made all of this happen. To everything, all these buildings are related to the history, and it's just so tightly interwoven. Got baptized by him. Question. How many people were in the service at the same time?
Mary Treese.
I have a list. Excuse me. As I was doing the research, I did find a list of St. Mary's Parish members that served in World War I. I'm not sure if there was one from World War II. That is a whole nother story that we couldn't do justice to, and I think deserves to be spun out, because these large Slovenian families, it was like Saving Private Ryan. They sent away a whole family full of boys, and some of them came back and some of them didn't. I mean, it's an amazing story. I think that's something that we really should be exploring, and I see many phases in this neighborhood, so that would be one of my votes for phase number 2.
Wasn't there a picture of?
I like to address that to her.
Yeah. If you wanted to speak.
Hello, young lady. Hello, young lady. Or old lady. What do you want?
There's your Slovenian
This is one reason you ought to get that magazine I was telling you about, the monthly magazine. In there, it explained during World War I, Father Zupon went to the city hall steps, or courthouse steps, and out of that gathering, 300 people from Slovenianville went to the work.
Yeah. And any other comments or questions? Help yourself to anything that's left over, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of great food.
Any other comments or questions? Well, we'll stick around. Good. You guys enjoy it? Good.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
The song of Pueblo, the people's town.